Okay. All right. So here we are. Well, actually, I guess I'll wait one more minute. Okay, there we go. We're right on top of the hour. And I'm so pleased to be joined today by Mr. Michel Claessens, who is a specialist in fusion energy and science communications. He's the former head of communications for ITER, ITER.org, that stands for International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. Is that correct?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. Okay, good. And the funny play on words, ITER, ITER, is that in Latin it means the way. So as we're talking about the future of energy and abundant energy on this planet, um, fusion energy really is seen by so many people and more people as the years progress as the path forward for clean, renewable energy, baseload energy sources. So that said, Michelle, before I hand this stage over to you, I'm going to preface the start with a little bit of an introduction of FrontierDAO and who we are and what we do. So let me make sure I can get that screen up and shared so I can show. We have a little video, a 2-minute video, and let me start with that.
FrontierDAO is a decentralized, autonomous organization focused on scientific and engineering innovation. It is one of the first DAOs focused on scientific pursuits, hence one of the pioneers in DeSci, decentralized science. As a collective, FrontierDAO's main mission is to make scientific research, collaboration, innovation, and commercialization more accessible to wider groups of people, regardless of where they come from. Our philosophy, echoing that of NASA's, is that good ideas come from everywhere, and we are using the blockchain and Web3 tooling to help facilitate that people with good ideas, drive, and determination get access to funding, mentorship, peer support, and paths towards collaboration and commercialization, while still protecting their IP. FrontierDAO is committed to creating public goods by leveraging emerging technologies to benefit every human being on our planet. Catalyzing space and fusion technology incubation, FrontierDAO is working towards the vision of clean energy democracy. That is, clean, cheap, abundant, on-demand energy for all. By facilitating multiple pathways for funding for fusion energy innovation, FrontierDAO aims to collectively help make clean, affordable, and accessible energy available for everyone on the planet. We aim to do this by supporting paths to commercialization of this new technology, while still protecting the rights of the inventors and researchers to ultimately create a more vibrant, abundant future on this world and off-world that is shared more equally by all. FrontierDAO's work to support research as well as inclusivity in science, engineering, and the aerospace industry includes adopting space technologies to earth sciences to improve the quality of life on planet Earth as we simultaneously reach for the stars and become a multi-planetary species. Visit frontierdao.xyz today. If you have questions or would like to know more, feel free to reach out to co-founder Paige on LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. So that's a little bit about who we are and what we do. And as you can see, fusion energy has been at the core of our philosophy since the founding. The co-founder is a nuclear physicist who's always had a strong passion for fusion energy and is hoping to see funding for it increase, support for it increase, like it has this past year. Anyway, Michelle, enough about me and FrontierDAO. We are here to have the spotlight on you. You have so much expertise to share with us. First of all, this is Michel. Oops, I have to put it the other way. This is Michel Claessens. And you tell us a little bit about who you are. Are you French or are you Belgian?
I am Belgian, yes. I have a PhD in chemistry, actually. And as you know, I moved also in science journalism. I worked at the European Commission, where I was also a spokesperson for science and technology. Then I moved to ITER, and I lived. I live now in France. As you know, I've been quite critical about the previous management of the project, but there's been a big change, and the new director of ITER asked me to help them to improve the communication. So I'm pleased to do that, of course. So voilà, I'm back.
So you're
back to ITER.
Back on the ITER team. That's awesome! Yay!
Well, as a consultant, but voilà, I'm pleased to work with this fantastic project. It's a fantastic project.
Yes, and you have quite a presentation for us coming up. I was so thrilled when you shared that with me. It's very visual, and we don't have to be nuclear physicists or engineers in order to follow it or understand it, which I think is very important because so many of us really have no concept of what fusion energy is. In fact, Michel, I have to admit, your job as a communications person in fusion energy is a very big job because 99 out of 100 people I speak to, and me, I know very little about fusion energy, I'll admit. But as a communicator, I understand that 99 out of 100 people I speak to mistake fusion energy for fission energy. Now, they are both nuclear, but as we've been learning during this workshop series, they are opposites of one another. So just to start us off, I was hoping you could tackle that question first. Just how do you explain to people that nuclear fission or nuclear fusion, excuse me, is absolutely not nuclear fission?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, maybe I can skip to my presentation and share it with the participants. And then we can continue the discussion. So you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to say hello to the participants and good morning or good evening, depending on where you are. So I have a presentation with quite a number of photos to show you the current state of the project. I will go maybe quite quickly through the presentation so that we can interact afterwards, come back maybe on specific issues, if it is okay for you.
Sure. I mean, go at your own pace. You do not have to go quickly or slowly, just go at the pace that's most comfortable for you. This is a fascinating presentation, so there is a lot to take in, so it's wonderfully packed with information.
As you know, the aim of ITER and other fusion projects is to reproduce to some extent what's happening in the sun and the stars, so making nuclear fusion in a controlled way, of course, on Earth, and make it as a new source of energy. This is a sketch of the ITER site, completed, and this is a very recent photo of the site. It's quite big. There are 39 buildings there. Not all of them are completed, but we will come back on that. And as you said, Paige, nuclear fusion is quite different from nuclear fission. Most nuclear reactor, all nuclear reactor that produce electricity on Earth are exploiting nuclear fission. That is the split of heavy atoms like uranium or plutonium by neutrons, and this split release quite a lot of energy. Fusion is also a nuclear process because we are dealing with nuclei, the nuclei of atoms, but it is quite the opposite. The aim there is to merge, to fuse light nuclei, like, for example, hydrogen nuclei, or the isotopes of hydrogen, that is deuterium and tritium. And this process releases even more energy. So you see the potential of nuclear fusion if we can control and create the appropriate conditions for these reactions to happen. Well, this is the aim, in short, of ITER, to show that fusion and fusion energy is possible on Earth in a controlled way. Again, because the aim is not to reproduce the H bomb, of course. So here's a sketch of the ITER machine. We call it a Tokamak. This is a Russian acronym, which basically say toroidal, camera, chamber, magnetic, with magnetic fields around. So the pink donut or torus that you see on the center of this slide is really the core of the reactor. And below there is a little man in orange, which gives you an idea of the scale, the size of the machine. The tokamak is nearly 30 meters high and 30 meters large, sorry. And around, you see there are a lot of technical systems to feed the magnets. So the vacuum vessel at the center will be surrounded by 24 superconducting magnets. You see them around the pink zone in orange pink. So you need to supply electricity to this magnet, to supply helium to cool them. Okay, there are all the systems you need to control the machine, of course, and also to make measurements of what will happen in this chamber, because when the machine will be ready, the technicians will first make a vacuum in the vessel, and then they will inject the fuel for the fusion reaction, that is basically hydrogen or the isotopes of hydrogen, but they will inject only 1 or 2 grams of hydrogen. So you don't need a lot of matter to start these reactions. And then they will heat the gas at 150 million degrees. It's a lot. And then the fusion reaction will start and release energy. This energy needs to be collected through the walls of the vacuum vessel. And in a future commercial plant, the energy released by the fusion will be exploited to produce electricity. That won't be the case at ITER. It's only an experimental facility.
It will only ever be an experimental facility?
Yeah, ITER will always be experimental. There is no plan to convert it in a industrial plant that could produce electricity. That will be a next step.
Can I ask one more question? I don't
Yes.
want to interrupt your
No,
presentation.
no, it's okay.
So does that mean then that the countries who are participating will actually take the intellectual property that they're developing there and use it in their own facilities in their own countries? Is that the
Right, right.
Oh.
Yeah. That's the aim of the project. The philosophy, I would say, of ITER is that to put together 7 members, actually 33 countries,
Yeah.
to put them together, to build a machine together. That's a big challenge because each member is manufacturing some components and sending them to France, where the machine is being constructed. And the benefit is that the participating countries, have access to all the knowledge, the scientific knowledge and technical knowledge that is produced by the project. The aim is that in the future, each country will have the enough know-how to build fusion plants in their own country.
That's very forward thinking, considering it was developed in 1985, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's also a learning project. It's not often said in the media and in the public also about this, but it's an education project in a way. And this has a cost, of course. You will see from the next slide, because manufacturing is quite complicated. The slide here just show that there are tokamaks, so there are small tokamaks since more than 50 years. The first one, in the top left, was made in the Soviet Union and then in France. But these were quite small machines, as you can see. And then they become bigger and bigger. There was TFTR in the United States, a very, very powerful machine. Then JET in the EU, in Oxford, in the UK, which is still the most powerful fusion reactor today. And you have one in Korea, there is one in China. So all the big countries have at least one fusion reactor. So there is an international cooperation going on before ITER. Okay, and as you say, yes, the idea of ITER started in 1985 when President Reagan met Mikhail Gorbachev in Geneva.
Yeah, I love this picture.
Then, okay, the scientific work started, and the question raised, of course, where to build ITER, because with 7 members, ITER could have been built in China, in Japan, in Korea, in India, in the United States, in Russia, or somewhere in Europe, because there are 33 countries in it. So where, why, and why? So actually only 4 countries proposed to build ITER, to host ITER. Only 4 because it was quite a challenge at that time. So the decision was taken in 2003, so nearly 20 years ago. It also required a big investment from the host country, which had to provide some infrastructure, equipment, even schools for the staff, the international staff. So Japan, Spain, France, and Canada made a proposal. Canada, because in the years 2000, the Canadian government was considering joining ITER, and then there has been a political change, and the idea flop. So after 3 years of discussion between the other members, they decide in 2005 in a meeting in Moscow to build ITER in France, in Cadarache. It was very complicated. There was a big competition between Japan and Europe for hosting ITER. And finally, okay, the French side had also good arguments to welcome ITER, and the local authorities, for example, decided to build a new school, a new international school here in Manosque, not far from here, to welcome the families, the children of the families working at ITER. So voila, 2 days after the decision in Moscow, President Chirac, you see him on the photo here on the left, President Chirac visited Cadarache and met the staff who were behind the proposal and the success of France. Then there's been an international agreement signed in Paris in 2006. And this is really the start of the project, because then the construction work started. And this is a photo of the site in 2009. You see there has been a huge work of leveling and the big deforestation, because before that it was a big forest, the Forêt de Cadarache, quite well known, and this forest is protected. So in principle, you cannot destroy this forest. So the CEA has been obliged to offer a compensation for this big deforestation and to buy and protect forest in the region. And yeah, another important feature of the project is that, as I said, the manufacturing is shared. That means that all the countries, all the members, have a list of components they need to pay for, and they need to supply and deliver to France. Voilà. So this is a sketch of who does what. It's very simplified, but they put the logic at the maximum, because, for example, there will be in the machine 18 toroidal field coils. These are big D, capital D. You see this capital D magnet around the cavity. Instead of, because these 18 magnets are identical, so instead of asking one country to build all the 18 magnets, it would have been simpler. No, they split the work between Japan and Europe. See, always with this logic that we work together and we learn together. It's very good, but makes things quite complicated, as you can imagine. And then, voila, it's not just the reactor that you have to build, it's all the plants. And this computerized view shows you the 3 low level of the Tokamak complex building. The reactor will be in the center, in the middle. But you see, it's well packed by all the technical systems, the pipes, etc., the cables, etc., around. So you can imagine if you modify, like it happened before 2015, if you modify something in the reactor, it will have an impact on the rest, and vice versa. If you modify a system, it can have an impact on the space available for the reactor. You see, it's a nightmare in a way. Voila. And it's complicated. This is already complicated, but it's further complicated by the fact that, like illustrated in this slide, there are several countries providing the material for the big magnets, the toroidal magnets. The cable comes from China, in part from Russia, Korea, United States, Japan, Europe. The case from Japan, the coil from Japan and Europe, and you have to put this all together and deliver them in France. So you can easily understand that if there is a problem somewhere in this chain, supply chain, well, of course, there will be delay at the end. Voilà, here I summarize a little bit what we have said, that it's really a big experience which aims to educate the people, the scientists, but also the industry. Voilà, the aim is also to help a fusion industry to develop in the participating countries. This is an aerial view of the site today with the different buildings. The red circle shows the tokamak, which is not yet there, but this is the tokamak, the reactor building. And then there are other buildings for the systems around the tokamak. So in a way, in Provence, because as I said, this was a forest before, so there is a new, a sort of scientific village with, now there are 3,000 people working in this village. So it's quite a lot, because it's as much as the close village in the region. So the main building, if one may say, is what we call the Tokamak complex building. You see on the left side. These are the tallest building on the side. In front, what we call the assembly hall, and in the back, in front, the reactor building, and in the back, the assembly building. On the right side, you see the pit where the tokamak will take place, the reactor. There is a lot of activities in the assembly hall, as big components are now arriving or have arrived on the site, and they some of them need to be pre-assembled with other, and this happens in the assembly hall. So this is the place where a lot of most of the activities are taking place now. There will be also a big cryogenic plant, the biggest, the world's largest plant in the world, to provide liquid nitrogen and liquid helium, mostly to cool down the big magnets. And there is a connection to the grid. As I said, ITER will not produce any electricity, but it will consume a lot. And this is the aim of the switch yard here, which connects the plant, the site, to the French grid. There is a big building, a long building on the side where 4 magnets have been manufactured for circular magnets. You can see on the photo there, because these magnets are too big and too heavy to be transported. So these are the only components which have been manufactured on the site, because they cannot be transported. There are two smaller circular magnets. One has been manufactured in China, and one has just been sent by Russia to France a couple of days ago, actually.
Yeah, can I stop and have you say a couple words about that, because that was noted quite a bit in the, at least in the fusion industry kind of cadre, right? That even now the cooperation, kind of like space exploration. I mean, even now the fusion energy international cooperation is still going through. I mean, Russia just sent that piece of equipment to France, right? Which is, what do you I mean, can you say a little bit more about that? Because that really is remarkable. It's great.
It's quite remarkable indeed. And I've seen in the past some political tensions, not as big as now, of course, but some political tensions between some countries. It never blocked the project. The only impact I can refer to was a change of a meeting place. Okay, mais ça va, it's not too serious. Bon, after this, some activities are more difficult, and there's been a slowing down, because now having a boat coming from Russia is much more complicated than before, but it's still possible for the time being. The reason is that the Russia is like the other members. It's really in the project, you see? These countries are in the project. It's not just an agreement or cooperation, a scientific cooperation. They all signed the international agreement. So the other members have no rights, you see, to say to another member, we would like to stop with you, etc. They have no right to do this, you see. So we can say it's a strength, because imagine the cooperation with Russia is completely stopped, and it means that the components which are on the list will not arrive, or will not arrive before, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 years. So this would be a big source of difficulties and delays. Here it shows the first magnet that was completed for ITER, and it was in China in 2019. Voilà, a circular magnet that has been shipped then to France. Here a toroidal magnet. You see the size of these magnets. They are huge. They are among the world's largest magnets. So this is in Japan. Voilà, the idea, as I said, all the countries are working. And on the bottom left, you see the photo of a boat transporting the magnet just completed by Russia. So all these components arriving in France, either they are stored in a storage building, or there are several storage buildings, or they are delivered in the assembly hall for subsequent work and pre-assembly works. This officially the assembly of the tokamak started in May 2020, so 2 years ago, with the lifting of the cryostat component. The cryostat is the big thermos isolating bottle that will contain the reactor, and that will isolate the reactor from the outside world in order to keep the temperature as low as possible and as stable as possible in the reactor. This component has been delivered by India in several pieces. It would be intransportable. This is a recent view of the assembly hall. You see in the middle a sector of the vacuum vessel, so the heart of the reactor, which will be pre-assembled with the thermal shields, which are in the pink wrap that you see. A recent view of the Tokamak pit. So assembly is progressing from bottom to top. Then the magnet manufactured in China has been installed. And then one complete module has been installed in the pit. So a sector of the vacuum vessel plus 2 toroidal magnets and thermal shields between them. Thermal shields which aim to insulate the vacuum vessel and the magnet. Because you can imagine that in the center of the reactor, the temperature will be 150 million degrees when the experiment will be made. And 3 to 4 meters on the left, the magnets, you can see parts of the magnet. The magnets will be at 4 Kelvin, so minus 269 Celsius. So it's a huge temperature gradient. So this is really a challenge for the material, for the equipment.
Okay, can I just punctuate that a little bit? I think I heard you say on the one hand, we're going to have 150 million degrees inside the magnet. And then on the outside, we're going to have minus 269 Kelvin. So in the same equipment, you're going to have that range of the span of temperature difference. Yes,
we can, as long as the plasma, so the plasma, the gas that will be at 150 million degrees, as long as the plasma does not touch the walls of the vacuum vessel, it's possible, because in a way the rest of the equipment of the reactor is isolated and not in touch, only marginally in contact with the hot gas, the very hot gas. So it's possible. There are other machines which have shown that it's possible. Not at this scale, of course, but it's possible. Unfortunately, there are some recent problems, and I'm pleased to tell you that the ITER organization is talking quite openly about these problems, which have been discovered very recently. The problems is, on one part, there are corrosion problems in the pipes. You see on the left side, on the thermal shield, these are the thermal shields. They are cooled down and by pipes with the helium circulating in the pipes. And they notice that the pipes are corroded already. So it's probably a manufacturing problem. They are now assessing the scale of the problem and what are the repair, the strategies to repair these pipes. And the other problem is on the sectors of the vacuum vessel. the three sectors which arrived from Korea have defects coming apparently from the welding process, which induce deformation in these big sectors, which imply that these sectors cannot be welded as such, because the defects are too big and they need also to be repaired. And the third problem is that the French nuclear regulator, ASN, Autorité de Sûreté Nucléaire, did not release a hold point they put in 2013 on the assembly. It's a public letter issued in January. Because of the defects of the vacuum vessel sectors, they are not satisfied with the biological protection of the walls, the concrete walls around Tokamak. They ask questions about the solidity of the slab, the B2 slab, which rests on all these pillars that you see here. This is an old photo that I've taken before they put the slab on it. And they ask questions about the reactor design. So it's quite a lot of questions. So we can anticipate some more delays, unfortunately. And there are also open technical challenges. It's about the tritium, the source of tritium. How are we going to produce the tritium needed for the fusion reaction? There is a solution for ITER, but there is, for the moment, no solution yet for the next generation of fusion reactors. Also for the material of the first wall, and there are still questions about the economic feasibility of this technology.
Michel,
Yes?
can we take a little bit of a timeout and
Yes.
and do some conversation
Yeah.
just so that we can stay we can sort of stay engaged.
Yeah, sure.
How many can you show us how many more slides do you have?
Not too many, I think. Yeah.
Well, honestly, can you and I okay, good. So now we can as communicators, can we have a little conversation? Do you mind? Because honestly, this is so much information, and this is so much good information. Especially if you're going to work for ITER, which you're working. I know you are working for ITER again. But this is honestly, this is what I see in the fusion industry. Is that the information is given in such big volumes about magnets and tritium and tokamaks and supply chains. And honestly, I think it's really difficult for so many of us to wrap our heads around that. Because what we're trying to understand is, how is that relevant? How does tritium and magnets have anything to do with abundant energy on the earth? Most of us know renewable energy as climate credits, right? Carbon offsets. And so even trying to delve into fusion energy, I think it gets to be a bit of a challenge. And then when we have all this information thrown at us, it can be a little bit, can I just say it? It can be a little bit overwhelming. So let's back up. Let's stay on your slides. or maybe you can hold your place, and let's go back to our conversation for a minute. If you could stop sharing for a second. We can,
yes. Okay, no problem. Yeah, I realized there is quite a lot of information to digest. Hold on. Voilà.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good. So what I wanted, and before we'll go back to your slides, because it's great information, and you've spent a lifetime and a PhD learning about this. But I want to back up a little bit, and let's talk about your visit to ITER with your son the other day. You tweeted about that. So now your son is 6 years old, right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
And
my youngest son, yes.
Your youngest, yeah. I think I saw you in your LinkedIn profile. I think you are a father of six children.
Yeah.
So now tell me, what was that, an open industry day? How did your son react to this whole experience of visiting such a one of a kind facility like that?
Yeah. So yeah, the site is normally closed to the public because it's a work site, and it's also a nuclear site. So it's normally closed to the public, except there are fortunately some procedures and some opportunities to visit the site. And ITER organized twice a year an open door day, where during which the public, the families, you have to register in advance, and to do it quickly because there is a lot of interest. So in 1 or 2 days, the list is full, and fortunately we managed to have a place for last Saturday. It was last Saturday, so for 5 days ago. And yeah, it was the first time that my son could enter the site. So he was, first of all, he was very happy to see what Papa is doing, who has done. And it's so impressive. The size, the scale is so amazing, and the dimension of the work site as a whole. So he was really impressed, and was very happy, of course. Yes. And he knows a little bit better what's going on there.
Is it possible? Were there many other children there? Is it possible for classrooms, for example, to plan in advance and coordinate in advance with the communications team there to bring classrooms to visit? I mean, how open? You say it's a nuclear facility, but it's fusion. It's a fusion. It's fusion. So there's no radioactivity.
Not yet. There will be, but for the time being, there is no activity, no experience yet. So there is no radioactivity produced. Yes, it's possible for classes to visit, for groups, for families. On one slide, I mentioned the link to the website where you can see what's possible and how to register, for example. You have to do quite in advance, because it's not possible to say, next week I go to Provence, maybe I can visit. Most probably there won't be any place available, but you can look for 2-3 months ahead, and then it's possible. So there are visits during the weeks, including for schools, and there is a special program. This is mostly for French schools. The CEA is having a specific program on fusion, but also there is an introduction to biodiversity, etc. How they manage, you see, the this big side and how they make sure that we preserve also the biodiversity.
What is the CEA? What is that?
Sorry, it's Centre de l'énergie, Commissariat de l'énergie atomique et aux énergies renouvelables. This is the big nuclear research center, the French nuclear research center, which is next to ITER actually. And actually ITER is using a part of the grant that belongs to CEA, so the Commissariat à l'énergie atomique et aux énergies renouvelables.
Okay, very interesting. Well, when we go back to your slides, let's go back to that slide where that lists about the schools and stuff.
Yes.
You know, I wanted you to tell us really though, if you could, in your own words, as an excellent science communicator that you are, what future does this hold for us? Why is the promise of fusion energy so exciting? You know, I mean, these are 7 of the biggest countries plus, well, and then the EU, so 35 of the you know, biggest countries in the world who've spent over $20 billion, you know, and have coordinated in an unprecedented way. Even space exploration doesn't see this kind of cooperation. To do what for us? What are they? What will the world experience when fusion energy can actually be a tangible and a real energy source? What will the world look like?
So imagine we can solve all the technical problems and the technical challenges of fusion, which is possible. It won't be easy, but it's possible. So that means that we will have plants that will use fusion reactions between hydrogen isotopes, okay, and produce carbon-free electricity, because the technology does not produce any greenhouse gas, so it will be more or less neutral for the climate, except the construction. So hydrogen is very abundant. Okay, if we are talking about deuterium, yes, deuterium is very abundant also on Earth. Tritium not, but we will probably have a technology to produce tritium from lithium. Lithium is very abundant. It's used in the electric batteries, etc. So that would be a good, nice solution. So the fuel, in principle, would be also abundant, and quite importantly, distributed around the planet. You see, it's not like petrol, or oil, or uranium, where most of the production is controlled by a few countries. And you see here, the fuel would be abundant for all, basically. So this means that this technology could supplant, replace, first of all, the fossil plants, of course, but also probably the nuclear fission plants that some countries like France are using a lot. So, so potentially this would be a very interesting solution for the energy supply on Earth. This would not mean that energy will be free of charge for everyone. No, not at all. And we should not aim for that, but at least it would be a clean solution without any risk, without any risk, because there is no chain reaction, for example, in a nuclear fusion reactor. So there is no risk like in Fukushima to lose the control of the reaction.
So not free, but much cheaper and possibly decentralized, right? So I was wondering, with all of your experience, I mean, ITER broke ground in 2010, I believe, correct? Like the construction part of it started in 2010.
2010, yes.
2010, and you were there from 2011 to 2015, correct?
Yeah.
And now you're back again, doing some consulting for them, which is very exciting. That's great. How do you see, because even just in the last 2 years, the private sector has gone from saying fusion energy is never going to be a reality to now throwing billions of dollars. I mean, look at the startup industry is that your son? I can see. Hello. Hello. Are you the one who visited ITER the other day?
Yes.
Oh, fabulous.
He visited ITER.
Our future nuclear fusion physicist. Awesome. Yeah. Great. What's your take on what the private industry is doing? And actually, I guess we're coming up on time, so I'll have you. Let's have you answer that question, and then let's give the last minute so that you can show us your slide about where schools can contact schools can contact ITER.
The industry is taking the big challenge of fusion in a very interesting and appropriate way, I would say, because the response has been impressive also, and they are making ITER real, because without the industry, of course, this machine would never exist. And so this means that a fusion industry is developing almost from scratch, almost. Well, there have been some activities before ITER, of course, but yeah, ITER made a big push for this emerging fusion industry. We estimate that ITER, there are about 15,000 people worldwide working for the project, and something like 5,000 enterprises. So it's quite significant.
That's very significant. So that's kind of like a bit of a foundational bricklaying for the startups now, the private startups who are kind of building on top of that momentum. Well, anyway, why don't you bring up, if you could, do you mind sharing your screen again and bringing up that slide so that schools and interested people. I understand too what you were saying earlier about how when they have those open days, you have to reserve in advance.
Yeah.
But it's still
well, this is I mentioned the link to the page where you can find information about visiting ITER and how to register and so on. What are the different possibilities, and you can also see the slots that are available for groups. So yeah, these events for me they are a big success in terms of communication for families and children, because the site, as I said, is normally closed, not accessible to the public. So during these visits or the open doors, people can access, they can talk also to some scientists working there. So it's very good. It's very good. It shows a positive image, and it allows the public to have a flavor of what's going on and to see the size, the impressive size of what is built there. Voilà. And voilà, the right side, this is my son last Saturday.
Oh, there you go.
In the Tokamak pit, almost at the entrance of the Tokamak pit. So.
Yeah, fabulous. You know, it's experiences like that that really inspire people. In fact, I heard someone say at a recent Fusion conference that as soon as their mother was able to visit, I think their mother visited JETS, I think it was. And now she's like a huge Fusion proponent, you know, because she got to visit it. So yeah, you're so right. I'm so glad you included this slide and that you shared that experience with your son, with all of us. So
I think it's important to communicate about this project, because I see that even in France, ITER is in France, but even in France, ITER is not very well known actually by the public. So
it's not.
We have to do this.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Michel, because there are so many people I've spoken to here in France who don't know anything about ITER. I would expect that from people in the United States, but
no, even in France.
Yeah, well, fusion energy is starting to have its day. You know, they're calling it the new space race. So maybe with the help of people like you, and if you let me, people like me as well, you know, we can start really communicating about this breakthrough energy, because you know, talk about making people's lives better, right? Heating, air conditioning, electricity for cooking, for your mobile phones, for water sanitation. I mean, this could really, this is as we were saying in our emails, this is transformational technology. So yeah, great. Okay, well, we're just right at time. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise with us. And yeah, thank you. Yeah, it really was very inspiring, very inspiring. It's a lot of information. And I think that's something that as science communicators, we just have to allow for. You know, we have to allow for the fact that people aren't going to be able to absorb everything all in one sitting. But the promise of it is so exciting. What are your final thoughts?
No, it's a fantastic project, and I'm very happy to give a small contribution to it. As we said, fusion energy is not before 2050, probably the second half of this century. Although I wanted to say also that now there are private ventures working on fusion in the States, the United States. There are several startups working on fusion. In total, there are about 30 projects, more than 30 projects funded by private capital in the world working on this field. So this is fantastic. There are projects in Europe, there are projects in even in China, etc. So it's a quite dynamic research and innovation sector, and the best we can hope indeed is one of these projects, because there is also there are synergies. We are sort of competition, but there are synergies between these projects. So we can hope that as soon as possible, but not tomorrow probably, they will have a solution.
Excellent. So it sounds like you're very optimistic. All right. Well, I know who to contact now, and I know how to contact ITER when I want to set up a visit. I'm going to do that myself. Yes.
And if you come to visit, you come to say hello here. Okay. I will invite you for a glass of rosé. Voilà.
Rosé de Provence. Yes.
Rosé de Provence. Voilà.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you from FrontierDAO and our sponsors, Filecoin Foundation, for everybody for joining us today. And thank you, a very special thank you to Michel Claessens.
My pleasure.
Who is
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
excellent. Excellent. Okay.